Despite Belly ending up with Conrad in the books, the show is set to spin things around, tease the outcome, and surprise every lover of the show with which of the Fisher boys finally gets to marry Belly at the end of season 3. And many other vital plots like that have been changed from the books in the show. Many important plot points have been changed from season 1, leaving people in great fear that season 3 finale might also be a significant change, which will favor some more than others. But before we dive deep into that, you should know this big plot point in the show where Belly lost her virginity to Conrad never happened in the books, which means people should be terrified of the changes waiting at the show's end. In season 2, there's a very special scene where Belly tells Conrad,
No, I want to. I wanted to be with you.
and they went ahead to get intimate where she lost her virginity, which never happened in the books. This part that never happened in the books was put in the show to make things more dramatic and complicated, which is precisely what the writer Jenny Han is aiming for in season 3, as she explained the reason behind this critical plot change. Jenny said, "I felt like that's where Belly was in her journey. These two characters were very much in love and had known each other their whole lives. Then comes the kick when she says, I thought no matter what happened in the future, this will always be a moment that she shares with her first love." By saying that no matter what happens in the future, it means Conrad having that moment with Belly in season 2 might not be a forever deal for them. Jenny added that she's rewriting the show to fit this moment and that the book would have looked different if she were writing it today. And most people today believe that it's rare for one to marry their first love, which gives a major hint to the direction of season 3. Another thing that was different in the books and was switched to fit more into the world today is Jeremiah's sexuality, which is a critical plot point for the show but was never included in the books. Jeremiah isn't queer in the books because he's written as straight, but in the show, we could see the character has had multiple male love interests and even got to make out with someone on the show. And again, Jenny spoke about the reason for this critical change, saying, "I think perhaps if I was writing the novel today, I may have made that choice because I think that he's always been a character to me that is really at ease with himself, really comfortable in his skin, and open-minded and open to exploration." And that's to tell you one of the most important differences we have lined up in this video. Jenny is making a different choice and twisting the end of season 3 based on how she would write it today. So she watches and listens to where young people lean in today, and that's why she made Jeremiah openly queer and will be the reason for many changes to come. Every lover of The Summer I Turned Pretty loves Taylor, but she was barely in the books. Jenny made the changes to make her more present and interesting. Taylor and Belly are besties in the show, but in the books, it was insinuated that they fell out and only refer to Taylor in flashbacks where she flirts with Conrad to mess with Belly despite knowing how she feels about him. Taylor isn't like this in the show, and even though they get into disagreements like most friends do, they get to reconcile and remain best friends. So the scenes where Taylor and Steven follow Belly to Cousins in season 2 are not in the books and are entirely meant for the show by making the friendship between Taylor and Belly better and more mature for the show without any outright disrespect. Jenny also has a major mature decision for Belly to make at the end of season 3, which will change everything as we get to it soon. Speaking of Taylor, you won't imagine how crazy it is that Jeremiah completely hates her in the books. In the books, he clarified that he doesn't care about her, and they even argue in flashbacks. This is a massive contrast in the show where Taylor cheers so hard for Jeremiah and believes Belly should end up with him instead of Conrad, and they also have a critical scene together in season 3 where they could have been talking about his relationship with Belly and possibly the marriage ceremony that will determine which of the Fisher brothers gets to spend forever with Belly. And with many of the significant changes we've been discussing so far, the answer is becoming more obvious. Another significant change that has been made to The Summer I Turned Pretty is the fact that new characters that weren't in the books were made for the show, one of them being Aunt Julia. In the book, It's Not Summer Without You, Conrad attempts to stop the cousin's house from getting sold, but Aunt Julia doesn't exist, which means she's not responsible for trying to sell the house like we see it play out in the show. And it's just their distant father who wanted to initiate that. So the show introduced Aunt Julia to tune up the drama, which many fans don't appreciate. But that's also exactly how significant changes will be made earlier in season 3 to influence Belly's final decision. However, the actress who portrays Aunt Julia, Kira Sedgwick, almost didn't join the show but was glad she did, saying, "I think I was daunted by the concept when I first heard about it, but that diminished the second I got there. Everyone was so lovely." Many show fans also find the new season 2 character, Aunt Julia's child, Sky, unbearable, and they believe the cast also can't tolerate the character in the show and real life. However, Sky is the first non-binary character in the show, and they act as a connection between Aunt Julia, Jeremiah, and Conrad, as the Fisher brothers try to include Sky in everything they do, which the fans don't appreciate as they believe it deviates from the book's original setup. However, the actor was happy to join the show and hoped everyone would like Sky when they met them, but that wasn't the case. Belly and Conrad were the end game in season 1, but it wasn't like that in the books, so the romantic scene on the beach in the first season isn't included in the books. At the end of the first book, the only thing close to Belly and Conrad being together is that she may have realized that she wants to be with Conrad, but that was never acted on, so the scene where Conrad says, "I do want you," and kisses Belly on the beach as "This Love" by Taylor Swift plays, is meant for the TV only. According to the book, the ending is a little more open-ended, with a surprise visit from Conrad in her hometown, but without any extra romantic display. And now that brings us to the most expected or not of the changes between the show and the books, which is to be revealed in season 3. The fans of The Summer I Turned Pretty are divided despite knowing how the book ends, and many hope it doesn't change from that, while many others are confident it will, and the answer is right here. Jenny Han has repeatedly teased fans about who Belly is with in season 3, and recently she hinted that reading the books doesn't make anyone prepared for the final part of the show, saying, "There are the things that fans know, and then there are things they think they know, and then there's going to be, hopefully, things that surprise them." But you know what she also revealed? Jenny mentioned that there are many amazing scenes between Jeremiah and Belly. She also hinted that Conrad will come back from Stanford to figure out where he stands with everyone and rediscover how things have changed and moved on from him. So, the big plot twist Jenny hopes would surprise the fans here might be the scheme to draw them in, making them believe it's an ending they've seen before and switch things up in the final moment, leaving the already divided fans even more split. Jenny has continually shown the fans that the show has a bigger and more complex plot than the books by making many changes, like including more diversity in the show than in the books. Belly's race is never stated clearly in the books, but the original covers showed Belly as white. In the show, she's of mixed origin, with her mother being Korean and her father being white. Another change from the book to the show is Nicole, who's described as blonde in the books, but in the show, she's played by the actress Summer Madison, and there are many other characters of color in the show as well. Also, there's more diversity in terms of sexuality and inclusivity, which gives the show a broader plot than the books. Jenny spoke about diversity by saying, "When I was approaching the adaptation, I wanted to reflect the moment that we're living in, and I think the diversity of characters is a piece of that, so it felt like a great opportunity to showcase different kinds of talent." And with that, Jenny got to explore a difficult but necessary topic in the show, which wasn't a part of the books, by exploring racism that the characters of color would usually experience in Cousins. Although Cousins Beach itself isn't real, it's based on a couple of real East Coast beach towns like the Outer Banks, Cape Cod, and the Hamptons, and it's believed racism can be very prominent in similar places to these locations that inspired Cousins. Since there wasn't a lot of diversity in the books, racism wasn't explored, but in the show, Nicole can be seen calling out the country club for pretending to be woke. Also, we saw racism play out on the screen with Steven when country club members insult him with Asian stereotypes while working there.